So you want to see the first and the last of many things. You want to know who the first losers are. Well, most people are enamored with the first World Series loser. That'd be Pittsburgh in 1903 losing to Boston. Most people want to be like first team to lose a World Series being up 3-1. And I do believe it was the 1958. No, it's the 1925 Pittsburgh Pirates and Washington Senators against the Pirates. First team to lose in the NLCS. That would be the Atlanta Braves being swept by the New York Mets in 1969. People want to know who the first ALDS and NLDS losers were in history. Well, there were the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Rockies, and the Dodgers. But of course, some people want to know who the first ALCS losers were. Well, we're going to take a look at this team from 1969 and we'll give you the historical context. Anyway, this is a story about the 1969 Minnesota Twins. You've got Jeff Diamond, you've got one man, you've got a hat, a bat, and that's definitely not all. You got the bleachers, got from spring to fall, you got a dog, a drink, and that umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play what if. Okay. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. So the 1969 Minnesota Twins were decent. They won the AL West, the first ever AL West pennant, if you will, and then fell to the Orioles in the LCS, making the Orioles go to the World Series against the Mets. So let's take a look at the Minnesota Twins and the fact they were never all in Minnesota. In 1901, you had the 8 original American League franchises, and one was the Washington Senators, bringing baseball to the nation's capital. Good fit. Washington had troubles, though. They were a middling to pathetic team. Walter Johnson was one of the best pitchers of all time. Imagine if Walter Johnson had the free agency thing or trade to a better team to get himself a World Series ring. Yes, they did win a World Series in 1924, but Walter Johnson could have won 2 rings or even 3, maybe 4. I don't know. Basically, Walter Johnson was all Washington had, if you will. He was a great pitcher, but the offense just sucked him dry. Washington did win the 1924 World Series against the New York Giants, and then 1925 they faltered to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Walter Johnson pitched well in Game 7, but he kept giving up runs, and he wasn't the same pitcher. 2 years later, he would retire. So the Washington Senators were around in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And basically, they had to think first in peace, first in war, last in the American League. Washington had a few chances to win the pennant, but failed. In 1956, they were playing at Griffith Stadium, which was a little decrepit, if you will, when new ownership came in. The Griffiths, Calvin Griffin and his adopted sister Thelma, decided to buy the Senators and move the team to Minnesota because they had interest in Minnesota. And Minnesota built this big stadium, Metropolitan Stadium, not for AAA, like the stadium was there, but for a major league team. Funny enough, Minnesota almost got the San Francisco Giants. There were rumors that the Giants, who were moving from New York, were going to move to Minnesota. However, they were persuaded by the Dodgers, who were moving to Los Angeles, to move to San Francisco so that they could have the Dodgers-Giants series rivalry in California. And it would be a good excuse for National League teams to be in California. They don't have to fly out of California after playing the Dodgers in LA. They could go to San Francisco as well and save on air travel. Remember, air travel was a lot different in the 50s than it is now in the 2020s. So that stadium was empty. However, the Twins were born, and the Washington Senators were moved to Minnesota in 1961. The agreement also was that Major League Baseball would put an expansion team in Minnesota and in Washington. So Washington was not without baseball. Fair assessment. Sorry about the background, I'm not going to repeat myself live. I wish you were around with when the Mets played and the Mets thing. And then I could, like, with the Cubs, I could use you as a visual reference. But nevertheless, as my co-pilot is trying to figure out what mischief she can get into, um, the fact of the matter is that Minnesota had a team, the Twins. They they did some great moves. They got Solio Forsythe and a few other Hispanic players. In 1965, the Twins defied the odds and won the AL to face the Dodgers in the World Series, one of the best World Series in the 60s. That series went to 7 games, and the Twins lost Game 7 on home turf to Sandy Koufax. Oddly enough, in the 1965, 1987, and 1991 World Series, the only 3 World Series that the Twins have been to since moving from Washington, the Twins have won every home game except for that Game 7 in 1965. They had home field advantage in 1985 and 91 thanks to 87 and 91, excuse me, thanks to the Major League rule at the time that the leagues would rotate home field advantage. The Twins won all 4 of their home games in the best of 7 against the Cardinals in 87 and also against the Braves in 91. It's called one of the greatest, if not the greatest World Series of all time. I tend to agree. So yeah, the Twins have only been to 3 World Series since moving to Minnesota in 1961. Kind of pathetic, don't you think? But let's not face facts. I mean, Cleveland hasn't won a World Series since 1948. I mean, you can't shit on the Twins, even though the Twins did have like this 18-game playoff losing streak from the 2000s onwards, and only snapped it against who else? The Toronto Blue Jays. So, sorry about that. Cat was peering over my laptop and into the camera. Regardless of that, I don't repeat myself because I'm going to lose my train of thought. Regardless of that, the Twins had some great hitters in the 80s and 90s. They got Ken Herbeck, Kirby Puckett, Gary Gaetti, Chili Davis for a little bit, Shane Mack, well, maybe. But yeah, the Twins won one of the greatest World Series of the time in 1991 against the Braves, where the home team won every game. So the Twins have been middling at best right now. But anyway, let's talk about the 1969 Twins, the first team to lose in the LCS. And you'll be thinking, well, wasn't there a better Twins team to do a what if against? I'm like, well, dude, I mean, you're the first LCS loser, and you were a good team to begin with, and you did get bit in the playoffs. So let's talk about them. So this is the info for the 1969 Twins. So it's their 9th season in the Twin Cities after moving from Washington, and the 9th season at Metropolitan Stadium, which is now the Mall of America. Billy Martin would be made manager of Minnesota, and it was like huge because Billy Martin was manager of the Twins at one time. Yeah, he was manager of the Rangers and the A's at times too. Anyway, the Twins were the best team in the AL West, winning 97 games, crushing Oakland, who are only in their 2nd season after moving from Kansas City. In the first year of divisional play, the Twins won the AL West. Rod Carew won the batting title, his first, not his last, batting title. Tony Oliva batting .309 with 24 home runs on 101 RBIs, and Harmon Killebrew, who won the AL MVP, 49 home runs on 140 RBIs. Wow, he almost got to 50 home runs. Rod Carew even stole home 7 times, which is hard to do. Cesar Tovar got 45 stolen bases. Jim Perry and Dave Boswell won 20 games each. And that's the only time the Twins have had 2 20-game winners. It's hard to win 20 games nowadays. Ron Paranowski put up 31 saves to lead the AL. Anyway, Jim Kaat was even named Gold Glove winner. Anyway, the Twins were tied with Oakland going to the top of the 10th in a game June 21st, 1969, but they scored 11 times, tying the record for most runs in the extra innings with the 1928 Yankees. 4 Twins made the All-Star game. Harmon Killebrew, Rod Carew, Tony Oliva, and even catcher Johnny Roseboro. Yes, the same Johnny Roseboro who was involved in that 1965 incident in which Juan Marichal broke a bat over his head. Harmon Killebrew won the AL MVP, the second Twin to do so. Solio Forsythe controversially won the 1965 MVP. 1.3 million fans went to Minnesota. So the AL West with 6 teams, including both expansion teams from 1969, Kansas City and Seattle. Took it over Oakland. The California Angels were way back in third place, so it was just basically the Twins, the A's, and everyone else. Angels finished third. Kansas City finished fourth, ahead of the White Sox by just one. Chicago was in free fall. In fact, they were playing games in Milwaukee, even. So it looked like the White Sox were fucked. The Seattle Pilots won 64 games. The Twins would struggle against Baltimore and Boston. They were 10-8 against Kansas City and 12-6 against the Pilots. But they were 10-2 against the Yankees, which was pretty good. Bert Blyleven was drafted by the Twins in the third round, 1969. We need to redo this thing because I fucked it up. You know, the famous radio call. Anyway, the Twins roster had good pitchers like Dave Boswell, Dean Chance, the former Angels icon, Tom Hall, the Jim Cat, as I call him, Ron Paranowski, Jim Perry, the real Jim Perry, I want more, and Al Worthington. Catching was John Roseboro's thing, but a young Rick Dempsey was for the Twins. People forget that Dempsey was not always an Orioles/Dodgers icon. He was also a Twin. Well, I didn't know that either, to be fair. Rod Carew, Harmon Killebrew, Rich Reese were the great infielders. Outfielders Bob Allison, Charlie Manuel, future MLB manager. Greg Nettles, yeah, future Yankee and future third baseman. Tony Oliva, Cesar Tovar, Ted Uhlaender, Billy Martin being manager. Killebrew put up 49 home runs, 140 RBIs, which was pretty impressive. And Nettles played 96 games. Rick Dempsey only played 5 games for them. Jim Perry and Dave Boswell both won 20 games, which was pretty good. The Jim Cat was 14 and 13. Dean Chance was 5 and 4, if you will. Paranowski put up 31 saves. They ended up getting swept by the O's in the ALCS and all that. So the 1969 ALCS was between the Orioles and the Twins. Now, the reason why I picked the Twins in a sense was because they got hosed in the first 2 games. It was a tight game. They were down. They were up 3-2 to the bottom of the ninth. It looked like the Twins were going to win this game. But Boog Powell hit a home run over the right field fence. But in the bottom of the 12th, they scored, even though that there were no balls out of the infield. And then in game 2, it was a pitcher's duel between Dave McNally and Dave Boswell. The 2 Daves were going at it. Dave's not here, man. So it was just amazing. That the game went 11 innings and only 1 run was scored. It was Kurt Mutton's pinch hit single to score Boog Powell. Boswell pitched 10 and 2/3 innings, 7 hits allowed, 7 walks, 4 strikeouts. McNally pitched an 11-inning complete game shutout, the longest in postseason history, and this is back to 1903, if you will. The Orioles beat the shit out of Minnesota 11-2 in Game 3. So anyway, the Vikings shared Metropolitan Stadium with the Twins, so they had to move their game to University of Minnesota Stadium. And then Atlanta also had to move it. The Falcons had to move their game against the Colts from Atlanta Stadium to Georgia Tech because of Bolton needing that thing. Kind of weird, don't you think? But yeah, the 69 Twins, because they got snake bit in the first 2 games of the first ever ALCS. I had to. But anyway, let's take a look at a replay. All right, so we got ourselves a matchup, the Mets and the Twins. So what if the Twins had won the ALCS? So the Mets would face the Twins. The Twins have fewer wins, but under Major League rules at the time, the AL had home field advantage. In the odd numbered years, the AL would have home field in the game 7, and the NL would do so also in the game 7. So we have Mets and Twins going toe to toe. In this one, yeah, I don't think Glenn Boswell was the second baseman. Or was he? I guess he could be. I guess he could be the first baseman. Well, nevertheless, the Mets send Tom Terrific on the mound. every Mets starting pitcher is what the Mets pitchers were in real life. So they have a three-man rotation. So Seaver's the leadoff guy. They'll face Dave Boswell, the Twins' best guy. And it would be the Twins narrowly winning 10-8. In the third, Art Shamsky hit a three-run home run to right. Wayne Garrett singled to score AG and Cranepool. And then Tom Seaver hit a single to score Grody to make it 6-0 and put Dick Woodson in the game. As RJL Network says, DH, I don't need no stinking DH. 6-0. However, in the bottom of the third, Rich Reese doubled to score Guru. Excuse me, I burped. Oliva singled to score Killer Brew. And on a throw home, Reese scored. So there was a 2 RBI single by Oliva, and then Roseboro single to score Oliva to make it 6-4 for the Metros. Bottom of the fourth, Carew doubled to score Tofar, and Leo Cardenas scored Carew with a single. I say that way to the seventh. Ron Taylor, the Canadian, came to pitch. Orlander singled, and then Roseboro singled. Bob Allison would pinch hit for Miller and hit a 3-run home run to left field. He should be a starter, Bob Allison. I don't know why he's not. Tuck McGraw had to come in to pitch, trying to say you got to believe. Well, Erlander flew up to deep center field as Cal Kuntz came in to pitch. So it was 10-6. However, the Mets in the ninth, Grazanda came in to pitch. Jones flew out. Shamsky walks. AG doubles to make it second and third. Ron Paranowski comes in for the save. He gives up a 2 RBI single to Cranepool, but he gets Grody and Garrett. Game over. Boswell went 2 2/3 innings, got rocked. Dick Woodson pitched 4 innings of 2-hit ball. Bob Miller pitched to 1 batter and 1. Al Worthington, Joe Grisenda, and Ron Paranowski. As for the National League, well, Seaver went 6, but Ron Taylor blew it, giving up 3 runs on 3 hits with the infinite ERA. Tuck McGraw and Cal Kuntz had to come in to save the day, in a sense. Yeah, but Bob Allison, I don't think would have gotten in because Ted Erlander was taking right field. So Kuzman started game 2 in real life. And Jim Perry would start game 2 for the Twins in this one. And in the end, it was a battle, but the Mets win 2-0. Cleon Jones hit a home run off the foul pole. And then Jerry Grody gets an RBI ground out, 2-0. The Mets would get big. It was first and third, Cranepool walk, and then Jerry Grody hits into a fielder's choice. They get to play at the plate, and Garrett pops up. So the Mets couldn't do anything else. Jim Perry went 7, Bob Miller the 2 innings, but Jerry Kuzman, 115 pitches, and he only gave up 5 hits. So the series is tied 1 skis. Off to Shea Stadium. Jim Cat would pitch game 3 against Gary Gentry. Now, the Mets went with a 3-man rotation because Seaver started game 4. So it's a 3-man rotation. So that's what I'm going to use. And in the end, it was the Twins winning 6-3. Rich Reese doubled in the first to score Killebrew. Tony Leva in the top of the 6th hit a home run to make it 2-0. And then Erlander singled in the 7th. Roseboro hit a double play. Jim Cat hits a double. Once again, I say, DH, I don't need no stinking DH. Then Cesar Tovar and Roy Carew goes back-to-back Applejacks. The Mets came back in the 8th. Miller came in, gave up a 2-run home run to Tommy Agee. Cranepool singled. Al Worthington pitched. Grody doubled to score Cranepool. Garrett walks. And Ronnie Sabota pinch hits for Nolan Ryan, who was a reliever for the 69 Mets, if you must know. And he grounded out. Roy Carew hit on fielder's choice to make it 6-3 Twins, and that was it. Gary Gentry went 7, Nolan Ryan pitched the 8th, and Canadian Ron Taylor pitched the 9th. For the Twins, Cat went 7, then Bob Miller and Al Worthington did their job, and Paranowski came in for the 9th for the save. Paranowski. So anyway, back to Boswell versus Seaver. Part 2. And part 2 sees the Twins put out another clinic as Rod Carew went deep in the top of the first to make it 1-0. Johnny Roseboro single score Oliva, and Roseboro single score Cardenas. So it was 3-0. Ron Paranowski came in to pitch. And then I've got AG to ground out. Cranepool singled, Grody grounded out, and Garrett popped out. Seaver went 8 innings. He did okay in a sense. Taylor pitched the 9th. Boswell went 8. They decided to go with Paranowski for the save. So now the Twins are up 3-1. Jim Perry will face Jerry Kuzman in Game 5. And in the end, it was a victory for the Twins. So the Minnesota Twins would have won the series in 5. Yeah, amazing. The Twins win all the games at Chase Stadium. And you got to believe that the Twins were the winners. I know the you got to believe thing comes from 1973, but it's a Mets thing. Jim Perry flew out for a sac fly. Rod Carew hit a double to score Roseboro and Tovar in the second to make it 3-0. And then Oliva goes DB2 in the third. Bottom of the fourth, AG flew out to right for a sac fly. First time in 13 innings on home turf that they got a run. And Cranpool hit a home run to make it 4-2. Jordan Roseboro had a pass ball. Garrett single. Don Clendenin came in to pinch hit. Hit a single. Ken Boswell singled. Bases were loaded, but Bud Harrelson strikes out and Cleo Jones grounded out. In the ninth, Tuck McGraw came in to pitch to try to settle down the Twins. Bob Allison came in to pinch hit. Walks. Tovar his fielder's choice to get him on base and take out Allison. Carew grounds out. They can't get the double play at the end of the inning, and it wasn't good as Killebrew hit a home run to make it 6-3. Paranowski came in to pitch. Ron Sabota came in to pinch hit. Fouled out. Ken Boswell swings and misses. Bud Harrelson walks and Cleon Jones grounds out. Kuzman went 7. Taylor pitched the 8th. About the 9th. And in the end, Jim Perry went 7. Bob Miller pitched the 8th. And Paranowski came in for the save. I think he saved all 4 games. So yeah, the Twins would have beaten the Mets thanks to some timely pitching. And beat the Mets in their timely pitching. And that black cat I had. Anyway, I'm Jeff. I'm going to do